Good morning, everybody. Okay, I hope you can hear me well. The sun's just coming up. It's Sunday morning. I've already been up and done a session with my agents. I make these videos, the diaries of a crazy person. One is my own therapy, because I live in monk mode. I don't see very many people. I don't speak to very many people. I'm staying here with my soon to be 86-year-old parents. So I don't like to leave the house with my mum on her own if my dad ain't in. So that's why I decided to do what I'm doing for the last 3 years of being back in the UK. Is built a desk and work from it. Every day learning new stuff. Because what I want to do is taken me 10 years to get to this point. So every day you're learning. Every day you're green and you're growing. Some days you feel, but then you just got to look back and say, well, look what I've overcome before. Look what I've learnt before. I mean, Da Vinci Resolve. I mean, after 10 years, I can use it and get stuff out of it, but you don't truly understand it. It's so deep. But everything that I'm learning is because I have high standards. The work that I'm doing, I'm building tools and scripts and skills to check the work that I do, because I'm on my own. So I've made my artificial employees, my agents, and having to check their work and double check their work and triple check their work, because I'm relying on them to do stuff that I can't do myself. And I have standards, I always have. Even just sweeping up, I sweep up to the best of my ability. Whatever I do with my hands, I might not be the best at that particular thing, but I do the best I can with what I have and what I've learned so far. I say I can tile, I can bricklay, I can lay concrete, I can plaster, I can spin a spanner, I can dig a hole. I've done many jobs and they all had a skill involved. That's what your CV is, your life history, all those skills that you've learned in all those dead-end jobs or jobs that you moved on from. Some were low skilled and some were skilled. Some you got paid peanuts for and some you got paid well for. But it's all graft, all hard. And I did it to the best of my ability. And I moved on. And here I am, 53 years old, in a situation where I'm staying with my parents. Can't just leave them, can't go back to the Algarve, can't go to Germany or Dubai, can't just leave. I'm here because I can be here. But there's consequences to being here in England. There always is. You can't be in two places at once. But I'm doing my work. The paycheck's at the end. When you're an entrepreneur or when you're a solopreneur like myself, the paycheck's always at the end. And it's the bit in the middle, going without, the sacrifices, the dedication, determination, the bit in the middle that gets you to the end. That's what makes you stand out. That's why I make these videos. Not the flash Lamborghinis and the giving it the bling and the blang and all that lot. I'm documenting the bit before. This is the bit when you've been at the top and you've been at the bottom and you get back up. Every entrepreneur will tell you they've had to get back up so many times. So many entrepreneurs, this is the path you go through, this is where it is. But for everyone out here who I'm talking to now out in the world on YouTube, whoever you are, you're either watching this and just looking at it and thinking, twat. You're a keyboard warrior. You're not happy with your own life. Or you're somebody that recognises this and they're in the same place as myself. And you understand that it's hard work and it's graft. And it's lonely at the front. It's lonely here. People look at you like a fool. But you can't explain what you've obsessed with. You can't explain to somebody in a couple of minutes what you've dedicated your life to. You can't do it. When them people are different to you, they think you're a fool. But that's what the philosopher said. To be great, you must be prepared to look like a fool. To be poor, to be a pauper. But it's good, because I'm distracted. I'm not distracted, I'm focused. I'm not being distracted. You appreciate this. Normally I'm out here, I haven't got the camera rolling. But today I was like, oh, I thought, just do it. Use it as a test to see how much data it uses for however long I'm ranting. With these dives, they're a crazy person. Let's have a test. This is the first time I've gone live using a mobile signal, horizontal, at this time of morning here. This is my dad's pigeon pen. Been raising pigeons all his life. Greenhouse here, all the wildflowers. This is, what he does. Fishing, walking, shooting, racing pigeons. That's his life. That is his life. Nearly 86, still down the allotment growing his own food. 86 and goes down the allotment 3 hours every day. Grows all his own food. Always has done. Lived in this house for 65 years. Retired when he was 50. A miner. My mum retired in 1969. And just one wage paid for my dad working down the mine. Paid for his house. Fed his wife and his 3 children off one job. Now we're all flat out, aren't we? Thing is, when you learn what you learn, you can't unsee what you've seen, you can't unlearn what you've learnt when you know how things work. So you're better off being in the quiet. This is a building site now. This was all green belt. That's what I did. Went out this gate, went and built camps, climbed trees through the woods and over the field, and now all this is cleared away, and it's housing estate has been built here, and now right here there's a housing estate being built. So soon you won't be able to look out here and look at what's left on the fields, because it'll be a house. You can hear the pigeons. My dad every day used to go out this gate and just walk for miles, so much so that there was a pathway through the grass, always a trail straight out the gate, and you could see where my dad used to walk over these fields. And then 3 years ago, when they put up the fence cordon off a building site, that stopped. When I came back 3 years ago, I bought my new camera. I spent the last of my savings and bought my Lumix SX5 S5 Mark II X. Bought the NITSI ND filters. Bought the wireless mics. £4,500 I spent on that camera. Because I've been learning for all these years, learning how to film, edit, Anyway, I did take that camera out and I did film all the fields. And just this area here, I walked through it, all around it, filmed it. So I do have that on film, the memory of what this was like before this housing estate. That's why times are changing. Always times are changing. But I'm here for the people that are here with me. We're the ones that do the work in the shadows. We do the work. We don't complain. We just get on with it. You're always living on the edge of your comfort zone. You're always learning. And it's your internal belief system that just makes you keep going. Because you have a purpose, you have a meaning, you have a mission, and you're just driven. Because you gave your word, you did a handshake, and you made a promise to yourself. You're going to get it across the line, you're going to get these projects across the line, and you're going to get paid because you're doing it well. You're on the edge, you're an early adopter. You're driving what's your passion, you're using all your life skills in what you're doing, because you're going to get paid by getting it over the line. And you have to believe yourself. You have to see it in the mind before you see it in the eye, with the eyes. And when the times are like, oh, you want to give up, or you just, you've got that reset system inside you that says, no, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Get back up. You've got back up before. You know you can do it. And that's the thing. You know you can do it. And you know you have to go through this the isolation, all the emotions and the reactions to the emotions and the decisions you have to make even because of the emotions. You have to go through it all. That's what you have to do. Just like climbing a hill, cycling up a mountain. You know the views at the top, and you've got to just keep pedaling. Even when it's steep and you've got all that weight, you carry all your luggage on your bike, and it's hot summer, and it's swish back in because it's so steep, and you just got to keep going. faster than 3 miles an hour, just so you don't just topple over. You keep swashing back. The tyres are folding with the weight and the sharpness of your turning. And you do that for hours. And then you get to the top. And you get to the view. When I'm travelling and I'm doing that, when I'm coming to tops of mountains, I always try and get camped up before I get to the top, so that the next day, the next morning, I can get up and I can get to the top and I can spend as much time up there as I can, taking in the views, looking, listening, just being there in the quiet, in the moment, and looking in the views, because that's what you remember when you're old and you can't move. You remember the views. And people just turn up in their cars, they get there, they jump out of the cars, they pull out the camera, go snap, and then they get back in the car and they go down the hill. They spend no time there because it took no effort to get to the top and look. But for us to get there under our own steam, you plan it so you can spend as much time up there. You pull out your stove, you make your tea, you make your food, and you just sit there on top of a hill, on top of a mountain, looking out across some unknown land. And you just take it in. Just like living in the Algarve there, at the apartment. Just sitting there with a cup of tea, looking out over the sea, looking at the rocks, looking at the sea, looking at the boats and the yachts and the people. Or in the winter, just the birds and the waves and the sound, always hearing the sea. Rufus, sitting on your lap. Lisa in the house. Romeo on the wall. You see, those memories, those views you see, they mean so much. They mean so much. And that's what you take in. That's what you get when you're in the moment and just present in the moment. Just feeling how you feel from what you see with your eyes and the heat that you feel. Type 2 fun, that's what you remember, the hard stuff that gets you to the views. And you say it was worth it and you're glad that you didn't give up. Because if you don't give up, you don't fail. As long as you're moving forward at any pace, you're not standing still, you're not going backwards. That's why I write in the book every morning, every day, straight away, something positive before I even leave the room. Before I even open my eyes, as soon as I'm conscious, I say we are good, we are positive, we are worth it. We can listen, we can learn, we can take action. We have dedication, determination and discipline. We can do it. We're allowed to do it. And I just say that all the time before I open my eyes, or if I wake up in the middle of the night, I say it. And I say it to myself before I'm going to sleep. So I've got my own back. And it's that habit you build, that's something you build inside you that just, you're keeping them embers alive, you're just keeping them burning. So when you have to get back up, or when times are hard and the wind's blowing at you, you've got those embers burning. There might not be flames, there might not be smoke, but you've still got them embers, and you can keep them alive with the right environment, and then start the fire again. You always have those embers inside of you. I mean, since 2020, 2021, I've lost lots of, I've seen my friends pass. Just this week alone, I found out 2 people that I knew from the CB days when I was growing up, you know, have passed. CB days were so special to me. You spent, you know, I got on the CB when I was 14. I got a walkie-talkie, 2-channel walkie-talkie, and I made contact to a girl called Louise who lived just up here across the field. And I didn't know it was her at first, but I'd made contact with someone out there, a voice. I heard a voice, and they said hi, which was different to living in this village and always fighting every day, because I lived on this side of the white line, and just fighting, bullying or whatever, fighting in the village with the kids. Out here, miles from cities or whatever. And that's why the bike means so much to me, because when I first got my bike, I got it myself. I think I paid £5 for it, and it took me ages to save £5. We're talking 1980s, and I got my first bike. It was an old raggedy, shaggedy, knackered old thing, but it was wheels, because my bike meant I could go, leave this place, leave this village. And that bike has took me tens of thousands of miles. And the CB, I grew up with a community. We were all skint. And those that had cars used to drive, those that didn't. We had the rig in the car, we had the rig in the house, the CBs were always on. We were always talking to people. You could always get in contact with people, or mostly. There was all the dramas of CB life. Something had happened, you know, it's life. It was the reality TV, but in voice form, the radio form. That you went out and you interacted and met people, and I tell you, these people now, all these years, like, you know, we still call each other by our handles, and even we don't communicate much, even with Facebook and everything like that. We're in the group, and you just look at the photos and you just remember the times, and when they pass, you remember them. Good times, man. They're my foundation. And we just don't speak to people, our friends, life, the fucking system, everything gets in between us, just beating us and our friends. And that's why them days, you know, we were all skint, but we were together or whatever, you know, we were always communicating. And we'd go on eyeballs, or we'd have meetups, or parties at people's houses. And then we got older, and fucking money and houses and jobs and relationships and whatever, and they're gone. And now there's this nostalgia. And times are changing, and times are changing. The pigeons, these are young uns. young uns, old uns, and then old uns. Some of Dad's pigeons, they can live up to 20 years old. Now I wrote a book about them. Wrote a book about pigeons and my dad. You take note, like I say, take note of things. The flowers, the bees, the birds. When you give yourself time to be quiet. Books. I didn't learn to read till I was 29. And now I'm 53. And I've read lots of books, but all the books that I read, I learn from. This is a great book, I tell you. The Motivation Manifesto, 9 Declarations to Calm Your Personal Power. Brandon Bouchard. It's only a small thin book. It's hardback. But it's a book that you can read 1 page a day. And then go back. Keep reading that 1 page. With this book, it just feels so right just to read 1 page and keep reading it and reading it for the day or for the morning session. And by the 3rd or 4th time you read it, you start to understand it. And that's why with the book, The Think and Grow Rich, it says you should read that book 3 times, cover to cover, one after another. So read it, get to the end, start again straight away. Read it, get to the end, start again. Read it, get to the end, start again. So that you're taking in that knowledge so you think and grow rich. When you come to make decisions, this is where it is. When you come to make decisions, you remember what it said in the book because you've read the book and read it, reread it, and you start to take it in so you understand what the book's telling you. You haven't just read it and forgot it. So when you come to make the decision, you remember what the book said about how to keep calm, how to take action, that you should follow your gut straight away. If it says do it, do it. And if it says don't. Because you've already made the decisions. Your brain's already done the calculations. That's why you get that gut instincts. And if you've done your research and you get to that point where you just get an opportunity and you can make a decision, you go for it. That's why I say what I'm doing, it just feels right, even though it's so hard, right? It feels right to get up and do what I'm doing. It feels right. Oh, I don't think I would have sacrificed everything I've sacrificed and been as stubborn as I am and been true to myself as I am. I mean, I don't know nobody like me, and anybody that I know don't know nobody like me. I only hear the possibilities that there are people like me on the other side of that phone when I look at the screen and you see people like Williams or Hormozy or Goggins or any of the people that from the School of Hard Knocks go and interview. When you hear those traits that then people are talking about, that's what reminds me of me. When they say, yeah, you need to be stubborn, you need to be dedicated, you need to be focused and sacrifice, and well, that's what I'm doing, you know. I think right, I speak right, I take action for the right reasons. So much of our life goes unnoticed. We miss the sunrises and the sunsets. We don't sense how we feel. We don't sense how we're feeling for hours and often days at a time. We don't see the kind strangers help the elderly man across the street. We miss their appreciative smile on our spouse's face. We don't sense our co-workers' desperation because we never pause to look her in the eye or ask about her day. Locked indoors and hidden behind machines. We miss the entire season. The winter passed and we didn't play in the snow. The spring bloomed and we overlooked the flowers. The summer and the fall passed so quickly and we don't even remember the trees changing or feeling satisfied with time we spent outside. We don't even remember the trees changing or feeling satisfied with the time we spent outside. Each day there are a million divine wonders, acts of human kindness and beautiful signs. Yet we are too checked out, too busy thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, even to sense the magic. We mustn't be so numb or absent-minded as to allow ourselves to suffer the fate, misery of those choosing a half-interested, half-engaged life. We mustn't stay we mustn't stay oblivious to the key moments and circumstances of our lives. There is more pause and beauty and meaning to be had. With enlightenment comes the realization that the natural foe to life is not a distant death, but a detachment from living. With engagement comes the realization that the natural foe to life is not a distant death, but a detachment from living. Reality is only here, now, and we must learn to face it and form it. Reality is only here now, and we must learn to face it, feel it, and form it. I mean, that's what I mean about reading books, and that reality is here now, and we must learn to face it, feel it, and form it. The Motivational Manifesto is a poetic and powerful call to reclaim our lives and find our own personal freedom. It's a triumphant work that transcends the title, lifting the reader from mere motivation into a soaring, purposeful and meaningful life. I love this book. Paulo Coelho, author of The Alchemist. And this book is the Motivational Manifesto, 9 Declarations to Calm Personal Power. And it's by Brandon Bouchard. Bouchard. Burchard. Brandon Bouchard. That was like £3.50 off eBay. And it's a hardback, nice font, curved pages, and you've even got the red book in it, and the inner's red. It's a nice feeling book. It's honestly, this is the book, that sort of book that you feel that you're always going to have with you. So simple, so powerful. I mean, the front page, I remember reading the first chapter, and it was like, yeah, the declaration of personal power. There comes a time in our lives of those destined for greatness when we must stand before the mirror of meaning and ask, why, having been endowed with the courage heart of a lion, do we live as mice? Let me read that again, right? Yeah. There comes a time in our lives of those destined for greatness when we must stand before the mirror of meaning and ask, why, having been endowed with the courage heart of a lion, do we live as mice? Yeah, and that's the very first paragraph. I studied the martial arts since the age of 9, and again, I'm 53 years old. I didn't learn to read till I was 29. I left school with no qualification and just grafted with my hands. And I remember an old boy said to me, whatever job you do, learn the skills of the job. Look around and look at the job. Do it to the best of your ability and be proud of it. Even if you're just sweeping up, make sure you don't miss a bit. Yeah? And just do that in every job. And then another old boy who's an old boy now, same as my dad's age, years and years and years ago, he said to me, when you get your driving licence, that's your toolbox. All the skills that you learn in your life, you can put in your toolbox and you can take anywhere else, and that means you can charge money. And that's why he says, look after your driving licence, don't do nothing stupid. And when I was 17 and wanting to drive, he actually broke his leg, and he said, well, I'll put L plates on the car and you can drive me around. And he drove me around, and I drove him around, and we'd go and just find a big pile of horseshoes, like 3/4 of a ton of horseshoes, and he'd bought them and he brought them back, and then he just turned them into tables and chairs and hanging baskets. And he invested the money on a sandblaster and that, just to clean them all up, in a load of buckets so we could size them and put in buckets. And he paid me, I was only 17, and he paid me, he says, well, I'm not going to give you money. This is all the money for your driving lessons. I'm going to save it for your driving lessons. And I was driving him around, and then like I say, we were doing these horseshoes and and then it come to a point where I had enough money to do 10 driving lessons. And he said to me, I tell you what, this is what you're going to do. You're going to book your driving test and get the earliest possibility for your driving test. And I applied for my driving test, and back in the day it took ages to come back, and you'd say, right, you've got one at the end of the month or whatever. Anyway, he said to me, right, as soon as you get that date, I want you to phone up and ask for a cancellation. Any cancellations? And that's what I did. I phoned up the driving desk place and says, if there's any cancellations within the next month, can you please contact me? And they said, right, you've got one in 10 days time. And they booked me on that. So then he said, right, now go and have a driving lesson every day. And before I had a lesson for like 6 days ahead, and then I did my driving test on the 7th. and I passed. And that was the second time. Because I failed the first time, I was something silly. But that was the second time. Because I took his advice, and I'd been driving him around, earned the money by driving him around and learning these skills of all this and that. And then I got my driving licence. Another old boy that I met when I was 14 off the CB, his name was Frank Moonraker. And he's an old engineer, and he was like 70 something. And he had a lathe in this shed and everything, and he was on the dole, he had no money. He should have been in a school teaching, he was that knowledgeable. And he used to build the machines that built the machines. He taught me about working in fouls of an inch, lathes, all that lot. Craftsmanship, precision, he taught me all that. And I take that into my jobs. And that's what I mean, every job that I've ever done, I listen to the old boys. When I did my test to go for the army, when I was 16, I'd been working helping. I was doing engine reconditioning, and one of the guys there was an ex-army guy, and he said, look, if you're going to go in the army, go in as a trade, don't just go in as cannon fodder. So I wanted to go in as a Royal Mechanical Engineer, REME. I mean, I'm dyslexic, but I understood things. So when I did my army test, because of my dyslexia, I got offered trooper and all this lot. And I could have gone in the army, but not as a mechanical engineer. I said, you can retest in 6 months. If you don't accept what we're offering you now, you can retest in 6 months. And by that time, I was earning money, drinking and girls. But when people meet me, the one thing they say, are you ex-military? Because just the way I act, the way I am, the way I talk, the way I do things. You know, I've got a history. And the nice thing is now, for the latter half of my history, I got some old photos. I was 25 when I bought my first digital camera. Moved to Holland to live in Holland. And I decided to move to Holland after spending a weekend there. You know, as you do, you go to Amsterdam for a weekend. Well, I came back, and 2 weeks later, I'd packed everything up and I'd moved to Holland. I was 25, I had my 25th birthday in Amsterdam, talking to a doorman when I turned 25. Meeting Alistair Cook from the BBC and being filmed by him. So from that age, you know, I got some photos, got some pictures. I got a box of stuff that I've kept from when I was younger, 14, 15 onwards, just items that, and I got one plastic box that connects me to my past, because you forget what you've done. And that's the thing, that's what gives you strength when you can stand up like now and do what you do, because you remember things that you forgot that you'd done. You go, oh yeah, I've done that. I was that character then, I was this person then. Because that's what we are, we're just characters, actors. Costumes we wear and the personas we face, we wear like how we act, our habits. You are your daily habits, that's what you are biochemically, your habits. So if you eat well and you exercise, you don't eat junk, don't even eat about eating a lot of food, because I live off 1 meal a day. So it ain't how much you eat, it's what you eat. You remember who you are. That's who makes you are now. I mean, my dad's got up before light and he's gone fishing. He's 86. Gone fishing. That's where he is now. I bet it's only 8 o'clock now in the morning, 8 a.m. and he's up and gone. He'll be back for midday. And he'll feed his pigeons and he'll go down the allotment. And he was a miner, retired at 50. House paid off. Growing his own food. Miner. Been retired 35 plus years now. He's fishing. Yeah, my dad's a big bloke, 6'5". Just lived his life. Grafted and lived his life. Did what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. That's where I get it from. My stubbornness. This way. Being outside in nature, travelling, camping wild. Or being in the Algarve, working with the millionaires in those mansions, those expensive villas and whatever, you know, listening to them and seeing them, you know. Yeah, I've seen it both sides, you know. The miner's son in the village, and then they're in the Algarve with the rich and famous. And I just cycled to Portugal with my gear, you know, that's the bit in between again, the bit in between there and here. The travelling, being on the bike, camping wild. All different continents, countries, people I just met. Where you just, on a bike, you cycle, you're looking around, you're taking it in. Then you stop and you're eating and you're sitting there taking it all in. That's the travelling, you're taking everything in. When you think of the views, you know, you're cycling down a lane, down a road, and there's mountains at the side of you with snow caps. And you're in a green meadow and the warm sun. And all you can hear is the sound of the tyres. Because your bike's running sweet, there's no chain noise, there's no nothing, it's just like... And because you're outside all the time, you understand the value of the warmth. You know, I lived as a nomad. And wherever I am, I just sleep on the floor. I always have a desk or a station I can work. When I'm static, I always go deep back to the same default. I spent 8 years living in a garage, no hot water, no heating. I turned it into a gym, underground fight gym, called the Renegade Revolution. That's one of my first videos are from the garage 20 years ago. That was the second peak time in my life, what really meant something. Those years in the garage, building that group of comrades, training together, and what we achieved, or changing their lives. What I meant to them at the time, what I meant to them at the time, them people, how they looked at me to change their lives. And 5 days a week, at night, there was a training class 6 till 8 every day. Where anybody could turn up and train. Saturday and Sunday training sessions where 3-4 hours. And that's what I do. I'm always doing 4-hour sessions. You know, a normal session for me is 3.5 hours. That's what I do with my clients when they come here. 3.5 hour session I do with them. And it flies by. I changed their lives. And they changed mine. Because I get back up and I keep going because I imagine them looking at me, looking up to me for guidance. When I used to get in the ring with the pros, I used to keep on their toes, yeah? Because when you get into train with the pros, you've got to be on the game. And I used to train like a pro, even though I was never a pro. You know, I never even had amateur fights. My fighting I did in the streets, yeah? When I got on the mats, I never pro boxed or amateur boxed. But I'd go in the rings with them, I trained with them, and I kept them on their toes. You know? I reach out to people on internet. I say to them, all right, come here, come and meet me. You know, boxers, fighters, and that lot. I meet, you know, I contact people on the internet who I see and say, right, come here to the backyard dojo and come and see if I'm full of shit. And what I do, see if I'm full of shit here in the backyard dojo. Because I spent since the age of 9. Listen to Trevor Teal, who's out in Australia now. He says, I'm as close to a modern warrior monk as there is. This is why I wanted to go to Germany and go and meet Shun Han Yi at the Shaolin Temple in Europe. This is why I went and knocked on the door of the Mulligan brothers when I was cycling back from Manchester. Because when I came back to England, I ended up doing 3 days fight rehearsals and a bit of filming for an independent project where there was fight scenes, and that was up in Warrington. And on the way back, I cycled across the Peak District to go to Nottingham to go and knock on the doors of the Mulligan brothers, because I wanted to look Jordan Mulligan in the eyes and see if he's real, because I'd followed him and listened to Inspire Change for years. You know, I'd watched him go all around the world interviewing these people, and I wanted to go and see him, look him in the eyes and see if he's real. So I rang and knocked on the door. So it took 3 days sleeping in the wild, going over the Pyrenees, not over the Pyrenees, over the Peak District, to ring his doorbell. And just at the time, they happened to be in. And I met Luke Mulligan, and I just said, hi, I'm Andy Spacey, you know, I train, I do all these things, you know, and I think you might be interested in talking to me. Anyway, Luke's like, not really taking it, you know, he's like, yeah. But anyway, Jordan must have been behind the door. He heard me and he came out. And he was interested and asked me who I was, whatever. And within 5 minutes, I'm inside the building. We're getting mic'd up, and I sat down and had an interview with Jordan Mulligan from the Mulligan brothers. And I'd been sleeping in the wild for 3 days, you know, my holes in me travelling gear. But I met him, and I found out what he had been doing, because it was before he released the heaviest marathon with a stone, with the stone on his back. Well, he told me about the video that they'd made that hadn't even released, where he was doing for the strongman. And I kept that secret for over a year. I didn't tell nobody about that until they released it. So I knew he was the real deal, you know, yeah. And he gave a t-shirt and a hoodie, and I mean, this is how much weight I'd lost. I mean, it was a medium. And I normally sit in a large or an extra large, but this was, you know, but that hoodie in that, and I got a diary, his diary. This is not a journal. That took effort to get that shirt. You only see the ones that make it, you don't see the ones that don't. But the ones that don't make it still have to do the work. So that's why I say take it in your control. Take control of what you can't do and learn it. So there is no excuses. There's something in the way. If it just means that you have to learn the skill, learn the skill. If it means you have to raise the capital to do something because you need to buy something, go and raise the capital and do it. I've got some projects now that are coming to, you know, they can see the line. They're not over the line yet, but we're at a point where you can see the finish line, or you can see a possible paycheck. I've got a couple of projects, but I've got everything planned out. all my projects, I've got a group of projects that are all going to come, that all have to come together at the same time, so that they're all launched at the same time, because they're all independent pieces for the whole to work. Saturday and Sundays, I always have to be super focused, because my agent tokens I get, Saturday and Sundays off peak, so I can work Saturday and Sunday all day when my allowances, when my sessions are valid, with my agents. So that's why I was up at 6:30 this morning working with my agents. I'm waiting for it to reset now. I think it's 12 o'clock. I'll do another session, and then it'll be 4 o'clock I can do another session, and then at 8 o'clock I can do another session. So I use all my tokens up, because they get reset tomorrow at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, because then I've got the morning where it's off peak, where I can finish off the session tokens. There's so much I do. I haven't told you, I don't tell you, I've not shared with you what I actually do and how I do it. I just rant and da. But, oh yeah, I'm doing the work all right. You know, you're at the stage when you talk to people, they're saying they've got to sign NDAs, because that's, your intellectual property is worth money, so you've got to get across the line. Boom. You've got to be like a stealth. You come out of nowhere and you've got it done. And when you've already got the work to show your finances or whatever, or your client or your potential buyers, well, there you go. That's what you're buying. Because that's what I do. I don't just come up with the idea. I develop everything, the whole. So I've actually got the products and items already done. Because if you don't want to buy it, I'm just going to sell it to somebody over there. That's how I do things, yeah. That's how I do things. And I've got projects now that are coming, yeah. And that's why, like I say, they all think you're crazy when you're on the way up, but when you get to the top, they soon start changing their tune, don't they? That's why you got to do the work. But enjoy the moment. Well, that's enough for now, I think, for a diary of a crazy person. Gonna make another drink now and then just stand out here in the quiet. And this is what you don't see, but that's what I'm going to do now. This is the first time I've done this morning time, doing this. Feels nice. Hopefully it's working right with the horizontal, because it's nice to be able to move around and that. We'll see how much data I've used, because that would just mean I just have to up my my mobile package so that I can have plenty of data. Hopefully the audio is good, which means I can just take these live videos and make them anywhere, which would be great, so that I can just show you what I do as I do it. There goes a squirrel just running down the fence. You normally see him in the morning, because that's when my office is there, so I can look out through the window, and sometimes I see the squirrel. He's just running across here. But yeah, because I'm showing you my life. That's what the plan is, to show you is my life, to show you how I do things, how I do it, where I do it, when I do it. So for you that are in the same situation as me, or for you that are thinking of like, okay, right, taking back control of your life and you want to do stuff, this is what I do. This is what I do. For the people that I connect with, and they're prepared to do the work, I get them across the line. That's what my projects do. That's what I do, you know. That's why I was a performance coach for 28 years, you know. Got to get you across the line. Change people's lives, change your habits, change your life, change your outcomes. Yeah, you understand. Yeah, and you build that through the confidence of the physical form, dealing that applying it with balance, with the mental training. The mental training, bring it together, mind and body. And then applied physics. Put your energy, laser focused on what you've got to do. Build the skills. Because what's the outcome we want? We want freedom, don't we? We want to be able to spend more time in the quiet. Show you how you can stay poor and be rich in time, like the poor man on the bike. You value the quiet and the moment and the minute, here and now. You can handle the hunger and the cold and the loneliness. So rich in time, the time that you have now. Or you can sacrifice that quietness, get your head down and do the work, generate an income, or a store, or a stock, or a stand-in. Secure your perimeter, know your resources, our action plans. Be brave. The ether, the man, the earth. Understand what this is. The power, what this is. Because this will guide you the way. This will protect you for what you have. We can take what you need. When you haven't got nothing, this is what you need. Because it's more than just a stick. This is your bow. Your friend, your enemy. This is the way. I'm Spacey. This is the birth home of the Renegade Revolution. What I teach is the Renegade Human Project. Where you understand who you are, what you are, and why you are. Thank you for watching.